Hello everyone, my name is Saeed. I am a junior cybersecurity student in university. Today I'll be covering object-oriented programming in Java in the simplest way possible. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you find this video helpful. To get started, we're going to explain what object-oriented programming is and how we can make our first objects for this program today. To start off, when using object-oriented programming in Java, there's two different types, or not types, like two different programs that you need to make. As you can see, I have two different programs made over here, one that's cat.java and the other that's testcat.java. Basically, the testcat.java is my actual program, and the cat Java is the presets and the blueprint for every object that I want to make under a cat. So let's think about cats. Cats have their certain characteristics. They have fur color, eye color, gender, age, whiskers. I can go on and on for the characteristics of cats, but to make this program very simple, we're going to only use four different characteristics. Those four characteristics, as you can see, is fur color, eye color, gender, and age. Um, okay, let's backtrace. So we want to make our first blueprint for the objects that we want to make as a cat. To first do that, on this program here, we're going to create a class named cat, and then we're going to put all of our information, the blueprint information within that class, within the cat class. So I made a public class because I want to be able to access this class in my other Java programs, but you guys have to make sure that that other program that you want to make, the Java class or the Java program, has to be within the same file as your blueprint. So I have my blueprint here and I have my actual program here. I hope that can clarify and doesn't cause any confusion. So let's move on. I make my public class cat, and then within it, I have something called they're called instant variables. Instant variables are basically variables that change according to the object. So in programming one, when you make a variable, you set it equal to a value. Otherwise, it's going to give you a compiling error or the code won't run for you. This in this case, it's different because we created this class cat, and for every variable that we create, we want it to be different for every single object. So think about it as this. Let's say I make one object, it's going to have all these characteristics within it. So just looking at this part right here, these instant variables, every cat is not going to have the same fur color, they're not going to have the same eye color or same gender or same age. They're all going to be different and they're going to vary. So the easiest way to think about this is for instant variables, they are only unique to each object. So for the first object, I can set the fur color to be brown, eye color to be blue, gender to be male, and age to be 3. But then when I make a second object from this class, it's going to set everything back to null when I run a program. That's the point of instant variables. Instant variables, they're not specific for every single object. Rather, they are unique to every single object. Okay. So I created these variables here, and then I also have two methods set up down here. They're not main methods, as you can see. These methods, I want them to display certain lines just to keep it simple of how I can call back for methods as well. I have two different methods set up here. Okay, so now that we've covered the blueprint section, or this cat class section, we want to make a second Java class. This is going to be what runs our program. The way you can tell that this is going to be able to run is, first of all, we have a main method in this program here when we didn't have one here. Okay, so everything in our program that we're going to be running today is going to be through this file or this program here, and it's going to reference from here, from the cat class that we made. This is the blueprint. Okay, so I start off by making my public class as testcat. That's what I named it. Open curly braces, close curly braces down here, and then within it we make our main method. With whatever we write within the main method is what gets run in the system, or when you want it to display in the terminal, that's what's going to be run. Okay, so in our main method, I called upon the cat class blueprint that we made, which is over here. And when you call upon this cat class, you can make your first object within it. Our first object, which is going to have all these characteristics, is Hamza. Hamza is the name that I made for that cat, or the cat object that I want to run. I can actually change this to object 1 to make it more simple. And I'll explain these next lines in a few minutes. Okay. Let's change this as well. Object 1. Okay. So within our main method, we call upon the blueprint class cat. And then we want to make our first object, so we're going to name it object 1, which is equal to a new object within this cat class over here. So this right here is basically initiating of the creation of the first object we want to make from this blueprint. When it makes this object 1 is going to have all these characteristics that we just made. Okay, so we create our first object named object 1, and then right below it, I want to remember how I was telling you guys the instant variables are always set to the default setting. If it's an integer, it's going to be set to 0. If it's a string, it'll be set to null. If it's a Boolean, it'll be false, so on and so forth. So to give an example, if I want to make a change to the integer age, which was preset to be 0, I use something called a dot operator. So the only way that you can add information or add values to stuff from your blueprint is using the dot operator right here. So this is already our object, right? So we call upon our object that we just created from the above syntax over here, object 1, and then we use our dot operator, and then you can either do whatever you want from here, basically. If I wanted to call upon my variables, I would just say dot age, and then if I want to call upon the gender, I would just say dot gender. If I want to call upon eye color, dot eye color, so on and so forth. Just make sure that you're using the exact same way that it's written to call upon it. In this case, we're going to be calling upon the age was preset when the system runs or the program runs, it's going to be 0. That's going to be the default. But now we don't want it to be 0. We want to add our own value. So for object 1, we make the age equal to 3. And then if you guys see, let me delete this down here. If you guys see now, when I compile my file or my program and I run it, it's going to print 3. Because I say system.print line, what is the age of the first object that I created. If I don't add this here, sorry guys. If I don't add that here and I just print it, I'm going to show you what it's going to do. It's going to give me 0. The reason being is we never set a value for what the age of the first object is. So it's going to go off based off the default integer, which is 0. So if I make a cat object and I just print the age for it, it's going to give me the default. But if I want to add my own value, I would use this dot right here, and then call upon the variable that I want to use, and then pass the value that I want. That's going to store that value for object 1. Okay? Now, let's go back. So, because I added my own value, now it's going to set that for object 1. Object 1's age is now going to be 3 every time that I call upon it. So if I say print object 1's age, it's going to give me 3. Let's see now what happens if I make a second object under that cat class. So we'll go back to our blueprint class cat, and we're going to make object 2, and it's going to be a new object under that class. Now, if I just say system.out.println object 2 age. Let's see what this gives us now. And then here, I'm just going to make all of this a comment. Let's see what happens now. Let's compile our file. Let's run. You see how it gives me 0. What if I have both the objects running at the same time? Let's see. Let's compile and run. As you can see, that variable is different for each object. So for object 1, we set the age variable to equal to 3. And for cat object 2, we never made our own value. So what it does is it doesn't go based off of the 3 for object 1. It just resets and it gives it 0 for the age. So that's the main point that can cause confusion. Instant variables can change every time you make a new object. So I can go on and fill out the fur color, the eye color, the gender for object 1, but when I make my cat object 2, that value that I made for object 1 is not going to get passed down to object 2. It's going to have all null, and for integers it's going to be 0. It's basically going to give you all the default values. That's the point of object-oriented programming. That way you can have different objects that have different values from your blueprint. You first make your blueprint, and then you can make your objects and give them your own, values. This is going to be it for the first video. I hope that you guys found this helpful. Once again, if you guys find this helpful, please leave a comment down below. Let me know if you guys want to see more tutorials as this one, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.